NBC 7 News at 4 starts with breaking news.
Let's get back to our coverage now of the anniversary of the flooding that caused widespread destruction in parts of San Diego. And Mark, today we're really reminded of just how historic January 22nd, 2024 really was.
Yeah, it's a good point. And in fact, they were describing it as a once-in-a-century type of event. So let's take a look at these numbers just as a refresher, even though it's tough to look back at some of these images and remember what it all meant. The rainstorm that parked itself over San Diego brought 2.7 inches of rain in just a 24-hour period, which is the highest level of precipitation San Diego has recorded since 1850. The city simply was not built for that amount of rain, at least to fall that quickly. FEMA would later count 4,856 structures that were damaged by the rising waters. More than 1,000 people, in fact, lost their homes. So an extremely unusual storm for San Diego. But that being said, there are a lot of people in this neighborhood and in this city that are still blaming the devastation on the city that they really believe could have done a lot more. As you can see, NBC 7's Dana Williams joins me now, and you've been speaking with some of the people who are now involved in a lawsuit against the city.
Mark, that's exactly it. One of them, his name's Greg Montoya. He's lived here for 25 years. He says this community, as you can imagine, is just absolutely scarred by what happened here. When I asked him to quantify the losses of his home and his personal property, he says he can't even begin to put a number on it.
This is the aftermath of the flood today here on Beta Street.
365 days later, for Greg Montoya, who's lived on Beta Street for 25 years, the horror of January 22nd, 2024 lives on as if it were yesterday.
Me personally, I refinished furniture. I have a lot of antique stuff. I had a lot of antique stuff completely ruined. No amount of money can replace it.
Greg says he was one of the fortunate ones who had flood insurance. He's since gotten the payments and managed to add new drywall in a bathroom, but he says it took 7 months to be able to return home.
And I did the inside of the house. It's livable. I'm living in it. But there's still a lot to do. As you can see from the outside, the foundation, still windows and doors still need to be done.
And this isn't the first time he says something similar's happened.
For over 20 years, I've been asking the city to put drains back behind this alley that runs back here.
Greg is one of hundreds of plaintiffs on a civil lawsuit filed as a mass tort, meaning each claim will be handled on a case-by-case basis. He says in 2018, his property flooded and he was part of a similar lawsuit then, filed the next year in 2019.
And here we are, 2025, and nothing has been done.
I think the city definitely could have taken steps to prevent what happened.
Evan Walker is the attorney on this year's case and on the case years prior. He says if the Chollas Creek area had been properly maintained, he thinks homes wouldn't have been lost.
It's a year later, and there's been some progress, but not much. And the majority of our clients have no money to fix their homes.
The city of San Diego doesn't comment on active legal matters. They also didn't want to comment on the previous case. They did share a media release earlier this week. In it, they outlined action taken since the historic flooding, including cleaning 18 miles of flood channels throughout the city, the majority in the Chollas Creek watershed.
Now the channel is a lot cleaner than it was.
A step in the right direction, but Greg says still not nearly enough.
Take a look at this. There's still trash everywhere.
And Mark, there is a status conference scheduled in terms of what's next in this case. There is a status conference scheduled in the next few weeks, but in terms of when these people may actually see money from this case, I mean, it could take 6 months to a year still.
Yeah, and a lot of times people, and this is a working class community, didn't have a ton of insurance anyway, basically to keep them on their feet when something like this happened, which really was unexpected.
No, and that's the thing that makes this so difficult, right? When something like this happens, a disaster in any community, you don't want them to lose the fabric of what makes it so special, right? The people here, the people, what they're working and what they do. But sadly, that's one of the realities. When they don't have insurance, enough money to make up for this, this puts them under.
And it's going to be this ongoing debate of whether this was just this freak weather accident, this 100, 500, 1,000 year storm,
right,
or whether there were just things that the city could have done to have mitigated it.
Right.
But I guess ultimately this is going to be decided in court.
That's the lawsuit, right?
Okay.
That's exactly it.
All right, we'll see.
Thanks, Mark.
Dana Williams, thanks so much for your reporting. Guys, back to you. More reporting as we continue on NBC 7 News at 6 and at 5 o'clock as well. Back to you.
All right, Mark, thank you.